Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to week 2 here at the Corporate Esports Association. We're ready to watch two of these amazing teams duke it out. It's Facebook up against Google next, bringing all the action at you. My name is Dor, and I'm joined by the always wonderful Moxi for today's proceedings. Mox, you as excited as I am for this match?
Absolutely. This is when the tournament starts. Joel, we had a little bit of Valorant last week, but that was the preseason. That was a little bit of an appetizer to show what was to come in these next 13 weeks. This is when victories and defeats really start to count.
Yeah, and speaking of victories and defeats, both of these teams look particularly nasty. I know you got to interview them the other day with Rich. You want to kind of give me a little bit of insight on what these teams are showing us?
Well, I can say right now, keep an eye out on Howard. For the side of Google's feeling lucky that Captain Ampagoose pointed him out to us. He's apparently the Jet player, and we know just how deadly Jet agents can be on all of these maps in Valorant. The mobility combined with the operator is absolutely lethal, and the punishment is extremely hard to put down if you know how to use your updrafts and your dashes. On the side of Senator We Use Ads, we did get to speak to the captain. He wasn't able to point anyone out onto the team per se, but he did say to keep an eye on all of them because he knows each and every one can pop off.
Yeah, one of the big things we need to look for outside of individual pop-offs, especially as we're heading on to bind for our first map, it's going to be executes, right? We need to see really solid team play. Rotations are so important here between the teleporters as well as the just attacking side's ability to get in anywhere, given the fact that the B site is so already locked down, the A site so open and ready for retakes. You need to have some pretty solid strats backing you up.
And you need to have an understanding of your opponent as well, because bind tends to have a lot of telegraphed play, right? If you have someone who wants to go for those very aggressive peaks on that defending side, you think about gardens, how point B is set out, how when there's an operator in place, someone will go for that aggressive face peak, and it will go down 1 round, 2 round, 3 round every single time. If you're on the attacking side, you have to start spotting out those patterns, know that that agent is very likely going to be there, and try to put things in place to punish.
Absolutely. Speaking of agents, we're getting into agent select. Now, there's been some pretty standard stuff. People have shifted away from the Sage. People have been shifting towards the Breach. It used to be the Phoenix a little bit in North America, but it feels like Breach has really been solidified over the past week or so. However, we've seen things like the Viper pick. Is there anything special that you think may come out today on Bind?
Well, don't particularly look for Breach coming out from Facebook's angle, because we actually, when we were talking to that team captain yesterday, we asked, do you go with meta compositions or do you prefer to let your players go with those comfort picks? And the answer was the latter. He allows his players to go for those comfort picks and did admit to trying to integrate Breach a little bit later on into the composition, which says to me that he might perhaps not be quite ready today. And looking at how Binder set out, looking at all of those places you can immediately just put a stop to rush attacks with those flashbangs, I'm a little bit fearful for this team.
Yeah, it's going to be real tricky without the help of the Breach. The flashpoints, great. The fault line is especially powerful at removing people from positions where they may want to be. The Phoenix is great, but you kind of only have a few choices of entry fraggers between the Phoenix, possibly Arena mixed in here and there, and the Breach. There's only so many things they could pull out, and it looks like it's going to end up being the Phoenix. A little bit old school.
Yeah, no Breach on either side, actually, for both of these teams, which is very surprising, especially with feeling lucky, admitting that they do like to keep an eye on those patch notes and go with the meta picks. Both guys, though, will be coming in with the Cypher. What I immediately want to draw attention to, though, Dor, is CL for the side of Sensor We Use Ads. Facebook have got a Sage in play. And that means you've got to start using all of your abilities. Yes, they've been hit with the nerf hammer, but you can still find a lot of use for those walls, for those slow ups to immediately shut down Google's aggression. And when you're running up against a Jet and a Raze, that's aggression aplenty.
Sage, I haven't heard that name in years. It's a little odd to see it after it's been out for so long, post nerf and post people just not really wanting to play her all that much. It's a surprise, but you mentioned having pocket picks. You mentioned them playing to being comfortable. This is definitely it. As far as comfortability goes, though, feeling lucky, not exactly that, as they've already lost 2 players. They're pretty much locked in at the A side. They've got a Sova floating around, and trading out one kill is at least going to give them a little bit of reprieve as they look for the A site. It's a minor execute here, but they need to play for the post plant. They need to save some of this utility because Facebook are going to be coming in with 4 members. No one really wants this duel quite yet. But Google need to set themselves up with as many angles as humanly possible. 3 players, but the Sova's not really doing that much sitting along A short. They're going to stack as many players out here as they can. Just looking for the spike defuse denial. This Cypher is likely to just get traded up. But no, Amon's found a foothold into the site. They know exactly where the Sova is. They need to take care of him, though, before they can get the defuse down. Time's running out. 1v2 now for their main defender. JKQA clutches it out with a nice little 3-piece.
Oh, so Google actually had a very strange attack, especially with it being that first opening round, right? When everyone has pistols, you tend to go in full numbers and try and hit a point as quickly as you can, taking as many kills out along the way. Google had actually split their forces, so yes, they lost a couple of people in the process, but they got so much information all across this map on how Facebook were playing and where that defense was set up, so they knew exactly once that spike had gone down where to position themselves around that point to make sure that they could cut off Facebook as they came in for that recontest. Now, though, it's that second round. Facebook have got the worst end of the stick with this economy, so you can see that reflected in the weaponry that they're using. Google can hit these points extremely hard, extremely quickly. It's going to be up to Facebook to try and stem this bleeding, and I want to see that Sage Wall being used as soon as Google try to push in.
This is actually a huge commitment from Google as well. I'm pretty sure every single one of their players has bought up a relatively expensive weapon, so any damage that Facebook can do is going to count for a lot. Here's Powers dancing around the corner. Himself one on the shoe pickle, looking for more. Absolutely will get it. The upgraded weapon, like you mentioned, is just going to be so impactful. Opens up the A site. They'll get the spike down, and most notably, without losing anybody.
Oh, Sage Wall, it just wasn't there. As soon as Google wanted to push in, that was when you need to put that slow orb down, that wall, to try and block off sightline in Bath, but it just doesn't come through, and so Google are free to trespass in. And now Facebook, not just the worst side in terms of that gun economy, but points as well. Google invested heavily, Dur. If they'd lost a player, then that would have really reflected in this third round. But they didn't lose a single player, and now that investment has allowed them to keep this better weaponry, to keep this better economy. And for Facebook, you've got to win this one. If you want to win the next one after that, you're already down 300 credits, 200 credits. This bank is looking, well, not very clean.
Yeah, it was a pretty risky buy from Google, but it's paying off in spades, right? They're going to have this is a bonus round that doesn't look like a bonus round. They all have weaponry that can actually do some pretty serious damage, like you mentioned. So for Facebook, this is all but free, but you're absolutely correct when you say they need to win it. Google coming up with one early. It's definitely not the start they were looking for. Gonna wall off that A side early, take your advice from the rounds prior, but that spike's actually leaning towards the B side of the map. Far from an execute yet for Google. They haven't actually commit too hard to anything early on in any of these rounds, but it's finally going to be the B as they satchel on. The Razor set up on site, looking to take care of the Brimstone. Back in the defender spawn. That 1v1 matters a ton. It's Ampagoose coming out on top. 5 versus 3 now. Facebook in for the retake, but it's likely they just want to save here.
I mean, you've still got 2 members as well separated onto that A side. If they try to come onto the B side, it's very likely that they're going to run into the jet. Spike's gone down. Facebook's waiting for the reinforcements to come in. Howard going down is the opening that they need. But remember, you've lost that stage wall already. You don't have anything besides flashes to try and get yourself safely onto this point.
Yeah, you're pretty locked into hookah here, and trading 1-for-1 definitely is not going to be worth it. Shoe Pickle needs to come up big, but can't. Amon with a nice 3-piece to his name now. Searching for that final player, but Facebook regretting not backing off, and you got to think what might have happened if they came out with a couple weapons this round. Maybe they get a foothold into the next one. Maybe they get an opportunity here. They'll get a chance at a couple of exit frags. Remember, it was a bonus round for Google. They didn't have to commit that much. Even losing 1 or 2 players here, not that bad. Facebook lost everything, their weapons, their lives, and now they're coming in with some pretty empty pockets, Moxie.
And Facebook as well lost utility very early on because Google did something that a lot of attacking teams do in Valorant, made noise in places that they weren't planning on pushing. Sky made sure that Facebook knew that there was a presence on that A main, and the Sage Wall immediately comes out seconds once that Omen has been spotted out, and Google are laughing because that Sage Wall is huge. Getting that out of the way is a massive hindrance. to the agent. The longer you can keep a hold of that utility as the round goes on, the more importance it gains.
Now, the same setup that we've seen before, very standard, very split. However, the Brimstone's found the one hole in it, pushing up along bathrooms. It's actually going to give them a lot of information. Yes, Howard Dean is sneaking to the back lane. He's a bit of a parasite over here. But if this Brimstone can push around in time, it should actually allow the rest of the team to stack over on B. But no, through the smoke, Cyrix down, Chupical as well. And again, the upgraded weaponry. It's so difficult for Facebook. I like that they went through bathrooms, right? They understand that they need to make a play somewhere in order to win this round. Unfortunately, it's just not going to happen when Google's at the helm.
It was a 50-50 chance, right? You either go for that stack on bathrooms or you try and shut them down as they come down short. They flipped the coin, they got it heads when it was actually tails, and so they were in just the worst position. I was able to just move on up freely past that passage, turns around, clocks one on the right, and then to keep on moving, and there was nothing aside from winning that immediate gunfight that Facebook would have been able to do. And this is the real danger when you're on that defending side. You immediately have advantage in positioning because all of these sightlines you have for free once that round starts, but if you don't have the weaponry to hold on to that space, that defense is very quickly going to start to unravel.
Yeah, this round, though, they have even weaponry. Facebook has let the economy spiral a bit out of control for Google, but it's definitely not past the point of no return. Another full spread from Google, not ever committing to anything. They've got a Hunter's Fury and a Blade Storm to make it count. I want to see Facebook get a little aggressive. I want to see this run it back committed. See them be the ones to make it mark early on in the round, but they don't want to commit to anything just the same way that Google do. They find one pick and then operate it off it. It's going to draw at least a slight rotation over towards the A side, making it a 2 versus 5 on B. Spike goes down for free, and it's another down man rotate for Facebook.
And they even used that run it back when Sandra had gone down to just try to buy time before Google wanted to properly commit, but you can't delay now. That spike has gone down. You've got the Hunter's Fury if you want to really heavily invest in this. Everyone is going to be in B hole. You can pop that ultimate, get yourself safely onto that point, because remember, the behind the points, you've got to train even at the economy.
One enemy remaining.
Moving up with the numbers, Sky versus 1 now on point. There's not much time for him. This Sorba needs to make a move quickly. He's got half HP, 3 kills, but he's not going to be able to get that spike down in time. There's no way. Kills Amon for a 4th, but it's just a consolation prize. You can put it up on the fridge, but it's not the trophy you want up on your shelf. Facebook still 0 rounds to their name. Google hold on to just the end of the round.
You may not have been able to get the point, but you did manage to take out every single member on the side of Google. And Google have been investing so heavily into each and every one of these rounds, full weaponry across the board, even in the situations where they perhaps shouldn't have done. Every single thing that Facebook is doing now is just trying to take this economy down, try to even out the table. Once you're back on top of that economy and you're still in that defending spot, you can start buying up. You can start really punishing Google for going for these aggressive sort of plays, for scattering their members all around the map. But for now, you're going to be the one trying to hold on as Google come in with an operator, and that means keep an eye on Howard. That operator can be deadly, especially if someone's going to go that aggressively to peek into buffs and challenge them for it.
Ooh, they've already lost Sandrith as well. The defender's not in a great spot. It may not be the bathrooms push that ends up mattering, but J2KA gets a little bit too big for his britches on the A side. Google are going for another execute towards this side of the map. The spike is far from down, though, and as the smokes fade, Facebook still have a pretty strong position here. It's going to be incredibly hard for Google to actually take this space, especially considering they have no bathrooms control. Amon shut them down, though, gives them at least that much for their troubles, and Facebook are getting way too antsy right now. 2 versus 3 now. The attackers with a slight advantage, but locked into a very good position. Hunter's Fury could be big, though. Try and clutch it out. Absolutely won't be. Cyrix now 1 versus 2 to clutch it. Hits the jet with the Blade Storm, misses the right click. Cyrix just needs one more. Look at the Neural Theft off around the corner. Is exactly what Sophus has to do with the classic. Can he hit the shot? No, it's Amon. Shutting him down, peeking around the Radianite boxes and putting up 6 for Google.
Peaks in the middle of the reload animation. You were, though, able to level out the economy somewhat, and I really liked as well CL with the Sage holding onto that wall, putting it to police. It could have been anyone except Howard with that operator. They would have been completely shut out from the fight, but it's a jet tour. You've got mobility. You can just hop on over it. Parkour skills are plenty. and Google are still able to have that one threat lurking constantly in the background. But for Facebook, you're starting to take this team down in terms of that bank. You're starting to be able to even out these rounds, but not if you already lose a player early. I was going to say, every single round we've seen improvement, but not so much now.
No, the economy is getting pretty bad as well. We're getting to the point where Google are going to be able to buy. Oh, that just hurts. That just hurts. That one came all the way from downtown. Still gets one. 3v5 now. Another B-side attack from Google. JQKA spares absolutely nobody on his way in, taking down Cheese to get this spike plant. 2 versus 5 Mox. I just want to see a save here. They barely got anything in the way of weaponry, in the way of money. Google have trust funds backing pretty much all of their banks. Yeah, Sandris is going to fall. This poor Phoenix is probably going to get run down by Google as well. He'd be lucky to get out with his life. Won't even do that. Howard Dean with 3 on the operator. You mentioned it was dangerous, and it's finally putting in some work. Take a look at the scoreboard as well. Amon's only died 2 times. Google are having the game of their lives.
Facebook, they keep losing. Remember, I think every single round we've seen for these 7 rounds, they've been the one to lose that first member door. And a lot of it is down to just how Google are playing. They go for these very aggressive sort of angles, and so the second that they see a player on the side of Facebook, even if they don't want to push in that space, they still go for the fight. In 7 rounds in a row, they've been able to win it on their side, and that means that this team is confident. They're going to be going with the operator. Howard already looking for that A shot, wanting someone to walk straight into him and challenge him. There are 2 players there, the Brimstone and the Sage, and you've got a team to back you up, so you're feeling exactly as confident as you see.
They know exactly what kind of weaponry they're running into, and it's not great. Cyrix getting 1 for his troubles. It's going to be pretty nice that Phantom might be able to put in a bit of work towards A. Shoepickle's played this position so many times, though. Google have to know he's waiting in bathrooms. It has been round after round. He pushes up and then gets stuck in there in the post plant. Yeah, Cage is just going to be shutting him off. Facebook, it's not really a round you want to save, but your Cypher did pick up a Phantom, which might give you a better foothold into the next round. Facebook, though, yeah, they haven't saved any other rounds.
They're even going to go for him. Howard's using the outdraft to get on top of the box. You can see, oh, he's inching. He's thinking.
I mean, he doesn't stand much of a chance here.
Extremely risky, but you have absolutely no chance. You're going to be walking into an operator shot. You're just going to try and dink away, reveal yourself. Operator misses, but you're still not going to be able to do much of anything. And Howard's actually going to pop onto the coast just to... Oh! Shows the back, loses the operator. Can Google pick it up?
Well, that's going to be a pretty nice consolation prize. Oh, that's awful, though. Cyrix holds every single weapon they picked up with a massive boost to their economy, and Google get out by far and above ahead. Cheese
Even
has
though they
a
lost
bit
the
of
operator,
cash.
because
Yeah.
they've still got 8 rounds in a row beneath their belt, the economy has hardly been hit. If they wanted to, they could still buy that operator in an absolute flash.
They can buy 2
It's
of them.
not going to be, though. Howard
They bought,
is
like,
not
5
going to be
operators.
coming out. So, a lot of aggression, and I wouldn't be surprised if they just go for the same sort of attack that we've seen them so far, make a little bit of noise in all of these other angles, that's like actually head to where they want, and this is risky from the side of Facebook. A is virtually abandoned, except from CL on that stage, and you're going to be holding in heaven. You've got the res, but there's no player there for it to benefit from.
This is a desperation play from Facebook. This isn't just an eco round where we're going to stack a site. This is all 5 members on B, all 5 with full weapons. If they can't do it here, Google just look indomitable, still taking out the members. They'll rotate over to A, knowing full well that it's open. They've got weapons advantage. They've got an ultimate advantage for Facebook. It's the same rotate they've done time and time again, yet never been successful at. Now is it's just Brimstone and Cypher hanging out best buds over on the B site.
Spike planted.
Yeah,
How
this
it's
is gonna be
there
rude.
to cut them off and defend us like one with the Phantom gets 1. Doesn't manage to get the second, but you still only left 4 Fyrix alive, and that will not be for long. It was that coin flip again for Facebook. 50-50. Heads, tails. B or A. And again, they got the wrong side. I feel like this team, the coin that they're using to flip, is just that two-faced coin, right? You know, where it's only heads. But unfortunately for them, heads is the one thing that they keep losing on.
I mean, they kind of did pick the right side initially. They got a couple of picks, a couple of people ran over. It's just the fact that Google has run this spread setup almost every round. Like, we have seen very few rounds where Google has just grouped up his 5 and pushed a site. So the odds that you catch everybody and the odds that they're not going to find out that you're stacking a site are pretty slim. Now, though, 3 people group it up towards Hookah, vying for a little bit more control. Facebook recognizing that their strategy didn't quite work out for them. 3 ultimates to their name, though. The Resurrect being probably the most notable of those, considering that Google has been playing for these first picks more often than not. Shoepickle lucky to dodge the operator shot, but it's Amon who actually gets the short end of the stick. Jesus holding on, gets a nice second one as well. Facebook, or pardon me, Google are getting a little bit too cocky here with peeking these angles.
It's the aggression that we've seen. This team are confident. They've got 9 rounds below their belt in a row. And that's meaning that they're cocky. They're going for these aggressive peaks that they really shouldn't have. Absolutely nothing to obscure that operator sight from the pull. And Cheese is able to find 2 because of it. Howard's trying to even the table. It's a 3 versus 2, but you still got to worry about that operator. You still got to block off a heaven because Cheese has rotated towards it.
Finally, the runner back comes out though. Shoepickle. It's a nice pick, but not much else to be found. 2 versus 2 now, post plant. Cheese has a nice spot on the high ground, but the dark cover is so good at shutting him off. Sky with the sliver of HP to his name as well on this side as the timer ticks down for Google's attack. We've seen the same situation before. Facebook weren't able to complete it in time. They got all the frags they needed, but they couldn't get the diffuser. It's looking the exact same as it was then. Taking out the Cypher is going to be damn near impossible. Moxi starts the defuse. He knows he has no time. The Cypher knows he has to peek this. Does the operator shot connect? It does! Cheese saves his life, saves the defuse, and gives himself at least 1 round for the half.
The trust that Shoepickle had in Cheese to hit that operator shot. Facebook able to pick up the first point with some beautiful teamwork coming out between those 2 agents. Even the read that Sky had teleported so that he wouldn't be at risk of being hit by the operator. To those crates, Shoepickle's able to find the Omen, take him out, then goes for the bait play with the defuse, pulls in that fight, and then Cheese is just able to finish it off. Absolutely beautiful, and now you can see that operator still in that Sova's hand, still a threat. Feeling lucky though. They've got to start feeling out this threat. They lost 2 players very quickly when they pushed into Hooker, and it looks like they're going to do the exact same thing. Though this time, that dark cover that Paranoid has gone down to B-hole, Cheese isn't actually standing in it.
Well, you know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This B site is tried and true for Google, and they come likely to get another instant spike plant down. Facebook playing for the rotate yet again. 3v5 post plant, and everybody's coming from spawn. I want to note, Mox, we haven't seen them actually push the flank ever. The Jet's there to punish it if they chose to, but every single time they come from the same angles. You can tell Google are all looking towards their spawn right now. They know exactly where this push is going to be coming from. They have nothing to be scared of. Throwing in the Hunter's Fury, gets 1 as well. Facebook, I think you just got to put the brakes on and hold these weapons for what might just be the final round of the half. If they don't go for it, they're going for it, Moxi. The Facebook just continue to try and force these rounds through, and while I respect the gusto, it hasn't worked for them quite yet.
I wouldn't be surprised to see us try to use that res to get the economy back from one of their players, but unfortunately you're backing out, you take a little bit too long.
Last
and
round
is able
before
to
the
pick you
hash.
up with that showstopper. Last round of the side, you've still got that resurrection, although it's not really going to do much for evening that economy out now. You've got to use it to help a player back in, and something that I really would have loved to see from Facebook was when that cover comes down, right, onto B-hole. If you're Cheese, you know exactly what that's going to signify. You know that Google are going to be pushing in from Hooker, and that they're wanting to block that angle off from the operator. You weren't standing in it when it comes down. Instead, you wrap around, try to get an eyeful of it from the left of the crate. You don't stand in front of it, but you're in the setup. You're not actually already there with the operator pointed on the head. If you just pushed to be back but stood in front of that cover, you still would have had the angle. You still would have had the chance to get the shot. You've got to start reading out how Google are playing, because it's extremely telegraphed. And Cheese is the first to go down, which means Facebook still haven't been able to figure out this puzzle.
No, it's more bathrooms control, but I don't think they've realized that the spike is pretty set over towards the B side of the map. At this point, the Omen and Jet are just kind of playing for a little bit of style points. Gonna throw down a dark cover to help the rest of his team. That was JKQA. It's a weird tongue twister to say his name, but he's doing plenty of work on the site. And how many first picks have we seen from this Cypher doing pretty much everything on his own, even though his team's doing plenty of work in their own right. This is Phoenix against the world, though. Can Howard get the shot? No, it's Shoepickle Getting one to his name before he leaves. Has to duel out a drone. That's not particularly difficult, but bound to be plenty more Google members to come after that.
And they know now where that clover is. 2 angles that he can come from. He's able to find Ambergoose, but that is going to set in motion this web of communication, and it's not long before Shupickle is found again, and this time taken out.
Switching sides.
Sides have been switched, though. That means that for Facebook, they have to start going aggressive. They have to start using these agents to their full utility. When you're running that Sage, you're a little bit boxed in on how you want to play. Personally, I would love to see them just go for those really fast pushes and try to hold on to walls and slow orbs for when that recontest comes through, because you can shut off angles. I've even seen teams, I think it was last week in FW tournament, win because they had a Sage who immediately went for those very aggressive plays. They forced that recontest as soon as they possibly could. It was on split, and every single time they still had that Sage wall off, they could cut off an entire entrance for the defense, boxing them into an area, and if you've got all of those covered, you've got a round one.
Revealing area.
Yeah, that's the tricky part about playing attack with Sage is you just play better for the long game. You want to be doing a little bit of damage here and there. You want to be pushing into site using the wall for the post plant, like you mentioned. It's getting there. That's the tricky part, though, because every time until now that they've peaked Google, they've just lost members, still bleeding them out. Sky and JQ take down 2, respectively. 2 members remaining now for Facebook. This attack dwindling Moxie as they back away from a short.
They did try to keep a hold of that utility, but it wasn't just
is he gonna knife him?
they tried
No,
to
okay.
keep a hold of. It was absolutely everything. And one thing that we haven't really got to see from Facebook as well is this
Match
brimstone
point.
utility. Those smokes, you get 3 of them, you can position them pretty much anywhere around the map if you're within range, and I really would love to see it. That's honestly some of the strongest smokes in the game. It would be able to at least give you a little bit more safety. That Cypher cage can be extremely temperamental. Facebook just walks straight in the entirety of Google, who just mow them down, and now you have to buy into this round. You can't go for that sort of passive wait until the next round to full buy in, because it's match point. If Google take this, they take the series.
Everything lies on the back of one round. You've got next to nothing in the way of weaponry to do it. How do you want to approach this? Losing one member, definitely not what they were really thinking of there. But it's still a 4-man push into A. Bathrooms is a duel you want to watch, though. JK getting aggressive, gives them a massive foothold. No matter what Facebook do, they're not going to have full site control as members are lurking all around these smokes, and they don't have a clue. The smoke drops, though, and Sky is caught with his pants down. Gets taken out. The best shot Facebook has got is they got the spike. No, can't even get the spike down. 3 defenders against 1 poor, lonely Sage in Lights. They know exactly where she is. The ammo is running out for Amon, but he's got plenty of teammates to back him up. And Ambergoose, the captain of Google, rightfully shuts it all down. 13-1. Google take the day.
Google were just better at the end of the day at reading their opponent. That was something we saw them do every single round, and especially in that last round as well, when Amon knows that that spike is going down, that he's still got a fuller team, that he's still going to have numbers, and if he can cancel out that spike, then he can cancel out a massive amount of that point control that would have been open to Facebook. And as soon as the spike goes down, that's when we see that poor Sage just stuck in lamps, 1 versus 3, trying to figure the way out safely. And that was something that Facebook just really weren't able to do round after round after round. Every single time we saw Google pushing the same angles, hookah, bathroom, A shot, they still just weren't able to find a foothold on any of them to go for those aggressive peaks to try and control the space. Instead, they were much more satisfied to play passively, and that just didn't help them, especially when they were so behind in that weaponry economy. You cannot allow yourself to play passively when you're going up against things like an operator. You've got to take control of the space, because otherwise they're just going to steamroll right over you.
Yeah, you have to fight back. I mean, even if you're getting bullied, even if you're losing those gun battles, like you said, that space is just so valuable. And Google have this nice luxury of being able to push all of those with just 1 member a piece. Like you said, 1 person's going bathrooms, 1 person A short, 2 people in hookah, and 1 person out long. It's a setup that we saw so many times from their attacking side. And you can't make those fair gun duels. You can't make those 1v1s, because that's what Google wins. Right? You need to make those unfair. Send 2 people down bathrooms. Send 3 people down bathrooms. Yes, maybe you let a spike plant down, but at least you're going to come in a man up, which is something I don't think we ever saw Facebook do. They were always down members coming in for the retake, and they're just a change or 2 away from actually finding a couple more rounds off of a team like Google, who, quite frankly, look really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, they looked super strong. They had a strategy completely ironed out, and it changed as well based on what Facebook was saying. They saw that they were going up against the Sage. They knew if they waited too long, or if they all piled up and stacked on one particular angle, they were at risk of being hit by the slow orbs and the Sage wall. And even though they've been changed, the danger, the threat has been diminished somewhat, it still slows you down. It still leaves you such a massive target, especially the bigger the group you're moving in with that wall, it can cut your entire team off and then your plans go up in smoke. And so what they did was they played around that stage. They made the plays as aggressive as quickly as they possibly could, but they made sure that the teams were scattered. So even though the sage has that wall, she doesn't want to use it. It's the same sort of mentality that we see in a lot of games. You put so much value onto one bit of utility, you know how much it's worth. You don't want to use it for just one player. You want to wait until that golden moment where it catches the entire team out. And that golden moment very rarely ever occurs, especially with the way that Google had scattered their forces.
Yeah, Google look excellent. You know, we're going to get a little insight into them in just a moment. We'll be right back with an interview. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Apologies for the quick break, but we're back with the interview that we so promised. It's Sky in the booth with us. Sky, great win. Congratulations on it. How you feeling after the match?
Feeling pretty good. You know, it's first game of the season, so I think off to a strong start. But definitely, it's gonna be, a good 3 months of practicing and scrimming. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay, so the first thing I've immediately got to ask, being a former Sage main and seeing Facebook run a Sage, was that something that changed the way that you guys played on your attack?
Um, not not so much. We weren't too scared of the Sage because we kind of know where she was playing most of the time, and we haven't really seen her utility used as much when we're pushing in. So just given the fact that they haven't been using utility to kind of slow us down, that we weren't really afraid of pushing on any of the lanes. So it was kind of open when we were pushing through. I think we were mainly focusing on taking the gunfights. I think that was our main focus throughout the match.
Yeah, you guys were very individual heavy, pushing down pretty much all 5 lanes of the map every round. As much as I'd like to talk about your defense, it was relatively quick to say
Right.
the very least. So yeah, attacking you guys, push down all those lanes, emphasizing, like you said, the gunfights. Was that confidence something that you had coming into the match, or was that built up over a couple of rounds to just take all of those 1v1s?
I think a little bit of both. Like, we've been playing together for a little bit, we've been scrimming and stuff. So we kind of know our strengths and weaknesses. And, after the first couple rounds, we kind of figure out what the enemy team plays like. So we kind of, see how much we can push, how much information we could gain, and how much space we could take. So it's a little bit of both, a little bit of experience playing together and a little bit of, reading the enemy as we play.
And we actually got to talk to your captain Ampergoose yesterday, and he mentioned that a lot of you guys have background in tactical shooters. Was that the reason behind wanting to take those gunfights rather than pushing everything around utility?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Like we also, we want to see if we could confidently take it. If we're having trouble taking fights, then we may rely more on ability. That's what I think that the benefit about the Valorant is we could at least lean on abilities if our mechanics aren't up to par against our opponent. So it kind of depends on the situation, how we engage it.
Yeah, it was a strong engagement to say the very least. 13-1 was the final score. Was that what you guys were predicting heading in? What kind of matchup were you expecting?
I think anything could have gone up in the air. We didn't have too much information about the other team, but we want to be positive, so we'll take any wins we could get. So.
Well, you guys are definitely looking like an extremely strong team and a big threat to everyone that you come up across. Was there anyone today on the team? I know Ampergoose yesterday said to look out for Howard.
Yeah.
That you think really popped off today.
Oh man. I think Amon's popping off a lot, especially today's game. His aim's always on point, so we always see him click heads in our scrims and our matches. So he definitely shined today.
Yeah, you look pretty excellent yourself, Sky. Congratulations again on the win, and thank you so much for popping in for the interview.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for setting us up.
Take it easy.
All right.
Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for today. The best of one over. Google swiftly ending that one over Facebook, but there's plenty more to come. We've just gotten started up, haven't we, Mox?
Absolutely. There's still many, many weeks ahead of us. Door, unfortunately, the one that you get to guest cast on was an extremely short match, but fingers crossed, moving ahead, we'll see some real close nail biters of a series, especially when we're going to be hitting those best of threes in a couple of weeks to come. So keep an eye on the CEA scene.
Plenty more to come. Go ahead and follow CEA. I believe there's a Twitter popping around somewhere, probably just beneath the stream. If you guys want to keep up to date with all the matches that are going to be played, like we said, though, that's all we have for today. I've been Door. I've been joined by Moxie. You guys take it easy.